You know, in today's day and age, I am genuinely starting to think that gamers are conflicting fun with happiness. Let me explain. So gaming is first and foremost supposed to bring happiness. Now, don't get me wrong, games being fun is monumentally important. It's just really starting to feel like that fun in gaming is starting to lose some meaning in the sense that we have so many different genres now, so many different types and styles of games that, yeah, can be incredibly fun, but that doesn't really mean they're necessarily pleasant. Even some of my personal favorite games of all time, while they are fun in many different ways, they are also mixed with a lot of disturbing, dark story moments and themes that as a whole can honestly be a little off-putting. I honestly wish we could go back to the time when we had a good mix of games. Like a handful of games on one end that, yes, can get dark. There is always a place for those stories in games, of course, but also the games that are just pleasant. Like pleasant from start to finish. You know what I mean? From gameplay to story or lack thereof, to visuals, to music, to collectibles. We need to bring back more of these games. Games that are made to not only exhilarate you, not only to challenge you, not even only to be fun, but to also, and most importantly, to make you have a giant smile plastered on your face from start to finish. And I think the perfect first step to this reintroduction that we so desperately need is from PlayStation's Team Asobi and its platforming masterpiece, Astro Bot. In a time when PlayStation had simultaneously its biggest failure of all time, it also manages to release what might be not just one of the best games of this year, not just one of the best platformers in years. I genuinely think this is one of the most important games to release in quite a while. Because this is the first modern day platformer that I truly think has what it takes to give even Mario himself a true and honest run for its money. The story of Astro Bot is essentially you playing as a titular hero. Your ship is destroyed by a massive alien and you need to go get the pieces back and rescue all the lost Astro Bots in the galaxy, including some Astro Bots dressed as very familiar faces and some not very familiar faces, but I'll get to that a little later. Anyhow, the second you boot up Astro Bot, it is on in terms of just stupid ass massive smiles from the jump. I actually know someone that told me that they thought Astro Bot looked a lot like Super Mario Galaxy. And I think that person kind of meant for that to be a bit of a dig at the game, right? Like sort of a jab at it. And when that person said that, I just stood there and thought to myself, okay, what of it? Like imagine having the honor, the privilege to be compared to what might be Mario's greatest outing. And you know what? Astro Bot deserves it. We all love Mario, but Mario isn't great just because it's a great platformer, though it is a great platformer. Hell, even recent Nintendo platformers, like one of my personal favorites that came out recently, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, isn't just a stellar, creative, beautiful 3D platformer. They also just have that, just that oomph, you know what I mean? They have that razzle dazzle, that specific level of Nintendo charm that comes with these games. You know what I mean? And that's really impressive because Astro Bot is a relatively simple game. But Team Asobi made absolutely sure that every move Astro makes felt responsive and smooth, that continues to build upon itself when you add in the several other layers of this game, from the platforming, from the combat, and of course, the presentation. I truly won't spend too much time on the presentation aspects of Astro Bot. It's so pointless to harp on something that everyone already knows, so I'll make it quick. The game looks incredible. Yes, Astro Bot is not the most graphically demanding game on PlayStation 5, but Astro Bot is just so buttery smooth, so clever with its designs and environments, so beautifully animated with its adorable and fun move sets that you really don't care if it's not the most graphically stunning game on PlayStation 5. Everything I just said makes Astro Bot just a constant looker. Then my word, matching those visuals with an unexpectedly catchy and awesome soundtrack, it really helps to give each level in Astro Bot such an identity. I think my favorite completely original level in the game is the level with that singing tree. I think it's called Papa Tree. That little song in the background has been on repeat on my Spotify. But let's say you take out the platforming. What else could you possibly do in Astro Bot? I'll tell you what, the freaking collectibles. So many enjoyable, fun collectibles that please my simple monkey brain. Finding all the little things that are in Astro Bot, right? That alone is what extended my playthrough of this game from maybe 6 or 7 hours to like double that. Not just for the other Astro Bots, again, I'll get to that later, but like you could be collecting coins, finding hidden levels, or finding puzzle pieces that if you collect enough allow you to open new areas to an absolutely packed and incredible hub world. This game is a damn good collectathon. I wanted to search everywhere, every nook, cranny, and trash can to find everything I possibly could in each level of Astro Bot. But the real obvious draw of a game like this is the gameplay, the platforming, and of course, even if you didn't have the super pretty and shiny graphics, even if you didn't have the absolute bop of the soundtrack, I genuinely think you would still have an absolute blast with Astro Bot. Like I said earlier, Astro Bot might not have a new move set. It's not doing anything crazy with the 3D platforming move set, right? You can jump, you can attack, you can do an extended spin, and you can hover with your lasers. But Team Asobi made sure that every move Astro makes felt responsive and smooth. But it's not just about feeling crisp while still running fantastically, by the way. No, it's also just how intentional it all feels. It's really almost an unnoticeable thing. The game is packed with those little tiny details that are just meant to make the game not only better to play, but just more pleasant, more consistent. It's the little things like that that shows that they put maximum effort just to make this game a blast. All of this even extends to the power-up moves, the freaking power-up moves, man, which, like everything else in this game, is not reinventing the 3D platforming wheel. In fact, it really barely changes Astro Bot's main movement. But here's the difference, though. These power-ups all feel awesome. They just feel awesome. My exact reaction to getting the first real power-up in Astro Bot was like, okay, this is the best power-up in the game and my mind can't be changed. And then the very next level, we got the freaking punching frog hands, then those slapped. Then after that, we got the chicken rocket, the elephant honeysucker, the monkey climber, and all of them played and felt so well. And that happened constantly throughout the entire game. You get these incredible, fun-to-use power-ups that are specifically and intrinsically designed for that level. And I think that's the really impressive part. With all these power-ups, not only do they feel great, but each power-up is specifically designed for that level. All I'm trying to say is when I was playing that level, I couldn't even think or fathom using a different power-up except for the power-up I have now. And I think that is well done. Honestly, Astro Bot could have really stopped with what I was just saying. If it were just to leave it at that, it could still be called, in my opinion, one of the strongest platformers we have had in years. But then Astro Bot decides to add all that while also making this game a deep and almost heartwarming homage to the awesome history of PlayStation. So let me put it to you this way, right? If the platforming is the first great thing about the game, and then the presentation, and then the collectibles, then easily after all that comes all of the PlayStation Easter eggs. You got the obvious ones. You got Kratos, Joel, Nathan Drake, Crash. But to even my surprise, Astro Bot goes deep into the history. Like, we see the Cloaked Traveler from Journey. He's here. The Wanderer from Shadow of the Colossus. He's here. The freaking Corgi from that puzzle game that came out from last year. Freaking Humanity. That was there. And these are just the obscure ones I managed to recognize, right? I didn't even know who some of these characters were, like the freaking Blob from Loco Roco, the girl from Gravity Rush. The game is not messing around. It's genuinely trying to represent every and all of the history of PlayStation. The good, the bad, the popular, the niche, and whether you are familiar with it or not, it is heartwarming. It is incredible to see a game just completely acknowledge the legacy of an entire generation of consoles that, honestly, I don't think it was ever done to this scale. It is not just the bots. It is massive, full-scale levels based entirely around PlayStation games. And it's not just little references in the levels and something like that. No, it is everything. The world, the music, the gameplay, the idle animations. My favorite level in this game by far is the level based on my favorite game of all time, God of War. Now, admittedly, it's more based on Ragnarok. I'm a bigger fan of 2018, but still, the fact that Team Asobi went all out with it. The bots are all here. Kratos, Atreus, Freya, frickin' Thor, frickin' Brock and Sindri. Even the gameplay and the weapons entirely switch from these levels. Team Asobi actually did their homework and studied for all this. And not only did they do that for God of War, but they did that for the other game-related levels in Astro Bot. They actually had one for the Uncharted series and Nathan Drake. They had one for Horizon and with Aloy. And if you really care about PlayStation and a lot of their games like I do, then this stuff here, this stuff is honestly enough to get you in the feels. PlayStation's history might not have been perfect, but you know what? It's still PlayStation. And the fact that Team Asobi just wears it all on their sleeves is really just something that deserves all of the respect. Astro Bot is real damn close to a flawless game. But I have just like very minor, very small, very minor issues with it. Like, for example, I do really wish we had more enemy variety. Not that the enemies aren't really cool at first. It's just that not only are all these the enemies that we mostly got from the first game, but after like the first batch of levels, you've basically seen all the enemies that Astro Bot has to offer. And I'm not gonna lie, that does get a little annoying. Also, and admittedly, this is a nitpick, I always hated one-hit deaths. Always. I can't stand that all it takes is one hit from an enemy to send you all the way back to your checkpoint. Okay, all the way back implies you have to restart the whole level. You only have to do that on the secret levels. On the regular levels, it puts you back to the closest checkpoint, which admittedly is usually pretty close. But I still would have liked a few extra lives, because as much as I appreciate the almost instantaneous load times, I still would have liked at least some way to get an extra life or something. I really don't know. The last real issue I do have, if you can even really call it that, just even as great as Astro Bot is, and it's freaking fantastic, I really don't think Team Asobi managed to go as far as they could have. Astro Bot is creative, for sure, but just looking at Astro Bot and seeing all the incredible ideas that it has, I just can't help but look at it and look at some of the platforming and just think to myself, man, they can do more. That's literally as far as my issues go. And isn't that an achievement in and of itself? It excels at just about everything it sets out to do in more ways than I think people were even expecting. Like, we knew Astro Bot was gonna be a great game, but I certainly wasn't prepared for Astro Bot to go this freaking hard. You know, even freaking DualSense implementation. The way the DualSense is used, from feeling the turbulence of the PS5 ship as you're flying around the galaxy, or feeling the grass and the metal on the controller, or even the tiniest of details, like when you pause your game and it lets you see all the Astro Bots that you collected in said level and lets you interact with them. It's something that didn't have to be added. It didn't, but it was done anyway. Why? Because the devs actually gave a crap. It felt like all I did was praise Astro Bot, cause damn, in a time where games are so focused on delivering messages, being dark and mature, or even just lacking good old fun factor, Astro Bot is getting consistent praise because it 100% deserves it. Astro Bot is a game that we needed more than people think. In a time of just dour, dark, unpleasant, preachy games only being challenged by Nintendo, it is refreshing as hell to have a game that can rival Nintendo in not just the fun, but just the pure joy. Music being insanely catchy, visuals being gorgeous, platforming being tight and intrinsic, collectibles being addictive as heck, the unique use of the DualSense controller adding in extra depth and immersion to the game, and then the over-the-moon representation of PlayStation's long, turbulent, but genuinely interesting and frankly heartwarming history. They all add up to something that is just something that is special. A game that, while not perfect, nothing is perfect. It comes so damn close, so close to it, that it's easy to see and understand why it's compared to the best of what Nintendo has to offer. Team Asobi, well frickin' done. You created, in my humble opinion, the best modern 3D platformer that we've had in years, and here's hoping we don't have to wait too many years for the next platforming gem. Ladies and gentlemen, that was my review of Astro Bot. Oh my fucking god, what a game! What a game! I love the fuck out of Astro Bot. Thank you guys so much for watching. My next review, I am aiming to have my Alien Isolation retrospective out before the end of the year. I'll keep you posted on that. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. It helps a ton. If you want to stay up to date on what I'm doing, please follow me on Instagram. That's @TheGamerCritic. Be good people, and I will be talking to all of you very soon. Okay, peace.